to the Samson Strength Coach Collective. I'm Angie Brambley-Moyer. On today's episode of the collective, we have Coach Jena of Wake Forest. Hi, Jena.
Hey, Angie.
So we want to get to know a little bit about you. So please just give us like a brief description of, who you are and what got you to the point that sitting at that desk right now.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I want to thank Samson, of course, for reaching out and setting us up. I feel pretty lucky I get to do this with you, Angie, just someone who's been in our field for so long with so much experience and such an impressive career so far in this field. So I'm really, really honored to be able to do this with you and really appreciative for them setting it up. So, I always start with, my background and how I got into sports. Specifically, all starts kind of with my family. I think that's really what molded me and kind of got me started in not only sports, but just kind of believing in that I can, be a woman involved in sports in different roles and capacities, even though it might not necessarily be the norm. I grew up and was born in New Jersey in a Philadelphia Eagles household. So you learn pretty quickly how important sports are, being in that environment. My family's diehard Philly fans. I would go to Eagles games with my dad and brother all the time growing up. And I think that really began my journey on just loving sports and the culture. If you've ever been to any Philly game, it's unlike any sport culture. I believe in professional sports. So it's very easy to start to love sports from there. So I grew up playing a bunch of sports. I never really chose one sport. I played everything from ice hockey to basketball to volleyball, really anything I could. I think my parents kind of put me in anything all the time, all year to get some of my energy out from being at home. So, I went to college to play lacrosse. I kind of excelled in that. In high school, I'm 5'1", so my height, it might have prevented me from maybe excelling in different sports as I got into high school, but played lacrosse in college at Queen's University. That was kind of my first experience with strength and conditioning. I really absolutely loved my strength coach. He was amazing. He really got us all bought in, and I kind of saw the impact it had on me and the confidence it gave me and the things it taught me in there on how to lead and, face a lot of adversity and figure out how to overcome it. And I had a really good opportunity to get an internship during going into my senior year of college at UNC Charlotte with their strength and conditioning program. That was kind of my first real experience, and I kind of really realized it's what I wanted to do. I got to work with women's basketball primarily, but a bunch of sports, Olympic sports as well. And I kind of was like, wow, this is an opportunity for me to work with all athletes, not just lacrosse after college. I knew I wanted to stay in sports, but I kind of always knew that I loved all sports. It wasn't just lacrosse. Lacrosse just kind of got me to college athletics, but it was never my, end all be all. So this was an opportunity for me to continue to work with other athletes in sports. So then from there, I just actually ended up getting to work as an intern my entire senior year at Queen's with our strength coach. Queen's University is Division II school. We had one strength coach for like 17 teams. So he really saw my interest and my passion for it, and kind of, I think, realized there was a good opportunity there for me to get experience, maybe get some class credit and help him. So that was pretty awesome. I got almost a full internship my entire senior year, which I really think kind of gave me a jump start to everything following college. So the rest of it, I got my first position at Queen's after I graduated, actually, as an assistant coach there, which I think is pretty cool and says a lot that, the university believed in me and trusted me enough to hire me as an assistant coach right after I graduated, and was with a lot of these athletes just as their peers. So that was really, I would say, a really pivotal moment for me in my career, because I had to grow up really quickly. I had to go from friend and buddy to coach within 4 months. So that really taught me a lot and forced me to learn a lot on how to, be a coach, but also realistic on what I can expect them to expect from me, and vice versa. Went to Lenoir-Rhyne University to get my master's after that and was a grad assistant. Awesome experience there. Right away worked with, I think I had 7 teams to myself. Really made me, just gained a ton of coaching hours. Had to work with multiple athletes from different teams, which then led me to Winthrop University, where I was a associate head strength coach with Olympic sports. And after about 2 years there, I got this opportunity at Wake Forest, working with the women's basketball team as director of sports performance. So very brief background on how I got where I am right now.
That was wonderful. And I live in a suburb of Philadelphia, so I totally get, being around sports in general and professional sports. I mean, we are a sports town, and, we love that here. So I totally get that. And it's no coincidence that I think Samson put us together here, because I'm 5'2" and you're 5'1", and it's, like you chose sports based on, like your height. Like you could have been a gymnast, I suppose,
Sure.
Very similar to myself. So thus far, like, what do you think the most, exciting / coolest story you've had in your career?
I was thinking about this particular question, and maybe not so much a story, but I think the coolest thing that has happened to me in my career so far is I have 2 former student athletes that I worked with at Winthrop that originally had no interest in being a strength and conditioning coach at all, or didn't even really, I think, understand what you could do in the field of exercise and sports science. And now both of them are pursuing strength and conditioning and want to be a coach. One's a GA right now, and got her certification and is now going to look soon for a job. And another one is just about to graduate and going to get her certification and then start hopefully landing somewhere for a GA position. So to me, that's just the coolest thing ever. Like when, you can have, you influence someone to spark an interest in this field. I just think that's the most impactful thing. And it's kind of what led me to get into strength conditioning. I had an awesome experience, which sparked my interests. And I think that so many times that young athletes maybe have had a bad experience, and they get really turned off at coaching really quickly because that's all they know and see. So I think it's so important for us, especially as sometimes the few females in this field, to be a really good example and to continue to spark that interest in younger coaches and specifically female coaches.
I agree 100%. I feel that, having, being a female in the field and there's so few of us, I agree. And I mean, for me, it comes down to also, and probably for you as well, just inspiring like young women in general to, push themselves a little harder and and to do things and to get into fields that they might have thought, I didn't believe in myself to be able to do something like this.
Yeah.
You touched on this a little earlier in your intro, but, having a strength coach when you were in college lacrosse and, that seemed to have sparked your interest in the field. But, what was it specifically? Like, talk a little about, not just that you like to exercise or train, but, what was it that like really drew you, like, or would you see in your teammates that drew you to the field and, to obviously do internship there and to continue to pursue?
I think the biggest thing for me was it was fun. Like our team had so much fun in the weight room, and like we worked hard. We worked really hard. I think we saw like different progress we made in certain lifts or exercises, or even how we fell in the field. So not only were we seeing the big positive impact of the training, but we had fun. Like we had like 6 a.m. lifts every day, and we still had a lot of fun. And I think that's huge. Like to get a team of 20, 25, 30 girls up at 6 a.m. and looking forward to it, and really buying into that is a really big deal, because, at the Division II level, I always say, I think it's fun to compare, where I'm at now and different environment I'm in compared to being at Division II level. Like none of us were going to go play. There's no such thing barely as professional lacrosse. I mean, just recently they kind of created a league for women, but like we're not doing anything with lacrosse after college. So for us to like buy into the training and being up at 6 a.m. into the weight room and buying into it all, I think just is huge. And it was just a place I wanted to be. And then when I found out that it's, you know, a possible career path, that's what really sparked my interest. And I think that not only did we enjoy it, but there was so many opportunity I had in there, even as a player, to learn things like how to lead a team when coaches aren't around. You know, it's an environment where your sport coaches aren't around all the time. So you can really be, an authentic leader and kind of take it on into your own hands without maybe worrying about what the coaches want or saying or think. So I think it kind of can push you in a bunch of different directions as an athlete and teammate.
Did you kind of hang out with your strength coach? Like, I mean, it seemed that you were the team liaison a little bit here between your strength coach and your team, you know, especially as you got later in your career. And was it a he or she? I don't know.
It was a he, yeah.
What did he, I'm just curious, like what he like said to you and you're just like, hey, this is something that I'm into. Not just, he clearly saw your passion, but is there something that he said to you that like really talk up the field and be like, number one, he clearly thought you could excel in it, but number two, I mean, this is a different kind of field. And, you know, like what did he say to you that said, you know, if this is something that I think I really want to pursue?
It's actually funny you say that because I'm thinking of it now and it came to my head right away. And it was something early on in my career I always remembered. He saw how much I loved it in there. And I was good at the lifts too. Like I'm not, you know, he saw that. And when you're good at something and someone sees it, it definitely helps. Mm-hmm. But once he knew I was interested, he really pushed me to be in it because, you know, gosh, it was probably like 5 or 6 years ago now, but there was not as many females at all compared, even just in the past 3-4 years. I feel like there's been more. And I remember him saying that, you know, there's not many females and there's not many good females, and that like this is a big opportunity and time where I think more people are going to want to start hiring females. And I remember him always saying like, use it to your advantage to, you know, by being the only female in the room or being the only female on a staff. There's ways you can use that to your advantage because you do have a different lens than most people do. And I remember that was kind of really encouraging and a really cool perspective that I kind of always remembered, even just later on when I'd be on a staff with all men, that, yeah, you know, it is different for us because we are women and we do have a different lens, but like, let's use it to our advantage. And I thought that was really cool and something I always remember to this day.
Cool. I mean, you kind of touched on this. I mean, being fairly new in the field compared to me anyway, as a female, you know, strength and conditioning coach or, you know, a younger, you know, coach in general, is there anything you would hope to see evolve more in the field?
Yeah. I think something as of recently I've really thought about, in terms of being a female strength coach and what I think needs to continue to evolve, or where frustrations sometimes still lie, is that, you know, you hear a lot, even just with everything going on. I think, you know, all diversity, we're trying to increase diversity and we're going to hire people in minority groups. That's great and all. I think what's next though is the inclusion part of it. I think it's awesome. Like you can hire as many minorities as you want, but are they going to be included and be able to provide value? Or are you doing it to fill a quota? Are you doing it to say, well, we have our one female strength coach on staff now, whatever, like, you know, what are they doing to make sure that we're developing and can be leaders in our field, not just the token woman on the staff. You know, I think that's what's next. I think it can't just be, we need to increase our diversity of the staff and the pool of people we have, but like, how are we including them? How are we making them feel valued? How are they being heard? And how are we using the diversity of these people in the decisions we're making? Because that's the whole point, right? You know, I always say the point of having diversity is so then you can have insight and have people from these groups provide value and perspective that not everyone else can provide. So I think to me, that's the next step. And I don't know, what about you, Angie? What do you think? I would like to hear
I agree.
what you think.
I 100% agree. It's not like you almost need to not just hire one woman, but multiple women. Like, I mean, any minority group, it really doesn't have to be a woman. It could be any minority group. But because, I mean, number one, inclusion is 100% a part of it, and you want them to thrive, and you want them to continue to thrive and grow, which is what you mentioned. But I think that, staff, like moving forward, like, leaders of staffs need to see it as, however you're diversifying your staff is about strengthening your staff. And just like you said, not, the token woman. I think we're on the right path. As a woman, we're underrepresented in numbers. And there's a lot of different reasons for that. I mean, there's women that have come into the field and left the field, and have not stayed in it, where there seems to be a bit more longevity on the men's side, just in the field. I've been in the field for a long time, so I can't speak for other women as to why, they've come and gone. This is a field that I love to do and pursue, and really anywhere I can do it, I want to do it. I'm at a place where I feel valued. And you and I had this conversation before that, when it comes to, choosing where you land, and want to stay, it's based on how that, college or university, which would be in our field, makes you feel valued, and are you valued there, and are you valued for like your thoughts and your mind and your different perspective, or are you valued because they just want you to like do the job and say that we have a woman on the staff. So we're going in the right direction. We're definitely not there yet. I mean, history has told us a lot of things, and in our field was typically men who started this industry. So I agree with you 100%, like just the growth of women in the field. And, but I also think that the women that, be able to like dip their toe in the water need to do their part too. So, I mean, I agree with your strength and conditioning coach where, he said that, you're a woman and, use that to your advantage. But I'm always telling like my, female interns that you don't want to just get the job because you're a woman. Like that may help you, but you want to get the job because you're the best person for the job, and there's going to be expectations of you, and you better know what those expectations are, and you have something to uphold there. I mean, you got the job that you wanted. This is a dream job for me. I mean, sounds like it is for you as well, but there was like, number one, there needed to be a standard that I needed to uphold. And I also need to continue to grow and push myself and push my teams in the field to be great, to have this kind of longevity. So it's not just hey, I got the title, it's with that title and how great are you going to be. And that's important to me, because I would hate it that if somebody would, get a job because they're a woman and they're sort of quota, and number one, they don't really have a true passion for it, and number two, they're gonna I'm not speaking for any specific one, but just to say, hey, like I shouldn't have expectations on me because I'm already a minority in the field. Like you should have higher yourself and continue to push yourself and be great and challenge the your male counterparts on the staff.
I agree. You're 100% right. And I think, this could be, ruffling a few feathers, since we're on a, podcast that was kind of dedicated to just being, woman, it was supposed to be woman highlight or whatever. And, I think sometimes I get frustrated, or not frustrated, but it's, I think another thing that needs to evolve is, instead of, highlighting it's woman strength coach week, month, or we're going to have a woman webinar, strength coach roundtable, all that stuff. Like, when is it just going to be like the norm of like, oh, they're really good. Mm-hmm. And like, we want to get them on because they're good at what they do. It's not like, oh, we have to fill it with a woman, And then I think it sucks sometimes. It's a burden and a blessing that I think like you said, you tell your young interns, and it's so true. And you're so right. Like, we have to, meet the expectations and demand maybe even more than our male counterparts sometimes. Cause it's like, oh, they're going to, we're one of the few. And now we have this kind of not burden, but pressure on us to be the best and be almost surprise people. Like I've had comments to me before. It's like, you really do know your stuff, or you are strong, or you do know what you're talking about. It's like, yeah, no shit, I do. Yeah. Why is that surprising? And I think that's where I still get frustrated. And I think things need to evolve still. It's like, I think we've all seen it. A bunch of men's strength coaches probably fail a ton in different areas, and they still land huge jobs all the time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I mean, and that sucks. I don't know if that's the same for women. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'd love to be, but I don't know if it'd be as easy for a woman in our field to fail pretty bad and then be able to go land another killer job right after. I think it's a different kind of pressure on us at times, which is also, I think, something that I hope evolves.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I just spoke to somebody within the university that kind of dipping her toe into like maybe being interested in this field. And, she works in campus rec right now, and, she got certified, but not the certifications that we typically hold. And I just told her, hey, like straight up, I said, there's a responsibility here. This is not fitness. This is team. This is collegiate athlete training, and it's different. And I'm not saying it's better or worse. I'm saying it's different, but there's a responsibility here when you say that I want to take on training this team and you don't really have an understanding of the difference and you don't take on that responsibility. And she was super appreciative of me telling her that. I mean, she was not an intern, and she was on, she's like a little bit further along in her career, but I was just, and, just being honest and saying, hey, listen, like, we have a responsibility. We want this, let's do it. But there's also responsibility here. Yes. Like, we're not going to, I don't like to use the word fail, but like, yeah, I mean, like, we might not like land every job and nobody's perfect. We're not going to do great everywhere, but I mean, you're absolutely right. It's like, if somebody like lost a job somewhere, am I going to still get a great jump someplace else? Because, it happens so much with men that like their names get, just kind of muffled, and like, there's so few women that it's like, oh, she just lost it here, but there's not many of them. So like, where else do we go if we want to hire somebody type of thing?
Yep.
So I get it. And I think we just need to continue on. I mean, we have a responsibility here, and I think that we've both accepted it, and continue to be great and encourage like the younger populations to like be great in this field. And I think we're on to the right path. I mean, we can control what we control.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to make a little transition here, and go talk a little bit more about like what you're currently doing. And I just, what was it like going from, training multiple teams to only having one? And I'm going to kind of load this question a little bit. And if you need me to repeat it, we can go back, but, and what changed, if anything, in your day-to-day operations after making that change to one team?
I would say the biggest thing coming from Winthrop, where I had 7 teams, was just the amount of coaching, like reps on the floor coaching. Instead of having, sometimes like 5, 6 groups a day of different teams of coaching, every day, it went to, 3 to 4 days a week, 1 hour in the weight room I get with them. And then I spend my other times at practice or doing other things, or being wherever I need to be. If it's game day, as this season changes, we're expected to do multiple different things. So that was really tough for me, to be honest. It was like a really hard transition, because I'm sure just like you, I got into this because I love to coach. I don't want to sit behind a computer. I've never been like,
Amen, sister. Amen.
Yeah, I want to be coaching. Like, that's what I love to do. And I think that was something I didn't realize would have been so hard, or like you don't think about when you take a job like this. And I came in my first year, in November. It was like our first game was on our first game of the season was my first day of work.
Wow.
So like, even then you jump into it, and in season, you're already taking away a lot of like typical time I would have
Mhm.
coaching, where it's like 3 to 2 times a week, depending on the week. We're in season, I'm coming in, I don't even know where we are, what we're doing in the weight room. So that was really, really hard. It's like, you kind of feel like a loss of like identity a little bit. But I think what you have to do is you have to find value in other ways, and you have to find where you can provide your services and values in other way that's still going to be impactful. And then get really, really excited for off season is what I typically do. And then, I think what's cool is like, it's made me really want to like perfect my craft at coaching, because I'm like, I get this one, depending on if we have groups, I have maybe a few more hours in a day, but like when we have team lifts and like, that's my hour of the day. Like, I want it to be so good and perfect, because that's my 1 hour. Like, so I'm going to be on, I'm going to have everything I want to do be accomplished. I'm going to, evaluate how I did at the end, think about what I can do better next time, and really just kind of like perfect my craft, because I have limited time to practice.
Yeah. I have multiple questions in there. Kind of like day one, the first day of the game, like you didn't know anybody. You showed up, you dressed up, you sat on the bench at game day. Did you warm up the team that day because it was your first day? You just kind of sit back and observe. The team was getting to know you the first, like on a game day. Just give me like what that first week was like.
I'll be honest, it was like it was so tough, and it was really hard. And my head coach, I love her to death. She's amazing. But yeah, she first day was like, yeah, you're good for warm up, right? For the game. And it was like, and I was, we were in like an all staff meeting before, it was like in the morning before our game. And she was like, yeah, this is what our schedule is. They arrive this time, they go out, shoot. And then here you are right here, dynamic warm up, and you're good with that, right? And I was just like, yeah, I guess so, and of course you're like, I know how to do a freaking dynamic warm up, but I remember like freaking out, over analyzing it all. And then I finally realized, I was like, you know what, I'm going to get with one of the captains and just tell them, hey, what have you done? What did you guys do in the past? Let me know. And we're just going to run the exact same thing, because at the end of the day, you have to realize that it's not about me. It doesn't even matter. It's about them and what they need to do to prepare. If I come in and I can throw something new at them, like, I don't want to get them out of their routine or change up or make them think about anything else than playing the game. So it was a little bit of like that first, I would say like the first 3 weeks was like, it's about them. It's not about me right now, because I can't come in and just all of a sudden do everything I want. I can't come in and be like, this is how I do things. It's just not realistic, and that's not going to stick well. When you're new and you're coming in and they've already been preparing for this season in this moment, it would be selfish of me and counterproductive to just think that I can start from scratch and do what I want. So it was a lot of observing and watching and figuring out what I am going to be able to do here and what I think we need to do. So it was a good and a bad thing. It really helped me to sit back and watch a lot before just jumping in and deciding that this is how things are going to go. So it was really tough, but it helped in the end, I think.
I love that you said that it's not about me, it's about them. It always is about them, but just that approach, like on day one, you had to say, all right, I just got this new job. This is my first day. And like, how am I going to approach this on game day? Like you did that beautifully. Do you get to do nutrition? Do you get to do that aspect of things? Some universities have, like RDs on staff, or did, you going from multiple teams to one team give you time to, dive into a little bit more specifics? Like, I have 6 teams in the staff, so I don't get to dive in as much to like specific things. You probably have like 12 to 14 athletes now that you're seeing on a daily basis. Gives you, a way different perspective than it gives me. So were you able to dive in from going, even like technology? Were you using it your previous, job? And then when you came here, was that thrown at you, or like, how was that?
Yeah. So from the nutrition part, that is kind of evolved in our department over the past 3 years since I've been here. We had a head of sports nutrition, and she had like 2 dietetic interns when I got here. So they helped and provided more product. and started just like from an education standpoint. And now it kind of involved, and we have a whole fueling station and more of an entire staff. So we have someone dedicated to men's and women's basketball that has been awesome in being able to kind of hit the ground running with our team. But when I got here, for sure, I definitely, again, like I was trying to provide value where I can, you know, in any way possible. And especially coming in the middle of the season, like, you know, providing value might be a little differently than it is in the off season or preseason when, you know, it's kind of primarily time with strength coach. So being able to figure out, like, again, like stepping back and watching and seeing, you know, where I think I could help and add and implement small things that's not going to, you know, completely throw them off, but I think add small value to them was something I always did, you know. So whether it was like, all right, now we're going to, even just something as simple as we're getting a routine of post-game shakes all the time, or just providing them with pre-game, you know, different fueling snacks, things like that, just to get them on trying new routines. So adding small things like that was kind of the approach I took. And also just like getting to know the players, like that was the biggest thing. Was I have this time in season, we're traveling all the time together. Right away, we're spending hours a week together. So it was kind of cool. I got to really get to know all the players on a more personal level and understand them. Before it was, you know, off season and preseason, where it was really my time, and I kind of understand how they tick, how they like to be coached. I get to watch them being coached in practices all day. So you can really kind of find out a lot by just observing and watching that. And then, you know, in going back to the technology part, when I got here, they utilized the Polar Team Pro heart rate monitoring system. So I did not use technology at Winthrop at all, really. So again, it was just, you know, collecting and watching and observing and figuring out what I can and can't do and what's going to be able to provide value or insight where I can. But it was tough. Like, I didn't want to provide and do anything with it that I didn't know was valuable or going to be useful. So it took me the first whole year to really figure out how I wanted to use that and how coach wants me to use it and what she wants to use it for. Because I would say you can collect, but, you know, what are we using it for? And I had to kind of figure out what I think coach would see as the biggest value to her in driving decisions for the team.
Yep, for sure. I agree with you 100% on that. What have you learned since, you know, being a collegiate athlete in regard to strength and conditioning, and kind of like, you know, even when you first were an intern, you know, what has evolved in your last 5 years per se, just as a strength coach, like going from collegiate athlete to loving the weight room to being, you know, strength and conditioning coach at Wake Forest for women's basketball, you know, what, you know, I guess like philosophy wise, or just you're like evolving in thought behind what we actually do. What do you think, you know, the biggest change was?
I would say, you know, I think something that I've evolved personally and just from being a coach is like, I don't know it all at all. I feel like, you know, each year you realize how much you actually don't know about how to be a coach and how to be a leader. And that things can always change, and they should change. And if you're, you know, stuck in a way or stuck on this is how I've always done things, or this is my plan and this is how I hope it's going, like, you got to scratch all that, because I think this year's a perfect example of, like, you can want to do all these things, but depending on the environment you're in and the culture you're in and your coach's philosophy, it's going to change a lot. I think especially at where I'm at now is like being with one team. Like, you know, we can say all we want as strength coaches that, you know, this is our coaching style and this is our philosophy, this is how we want to do things. Yeah, but if my coaches is completely opposite, that's going to be tough, because I am with them all the time and I'm at practices and I'm at lift and I'm on the road. And if my coaching philosophy and how I want to do things is not on the same page as how she wants to do things, it's not going to work. And it's also, you know, the relationship between me and my head coach is super vital compared to any other position I've been in, because at the end of the day, you know, it's Coach Hoover's program, and I got to be able to make it the best possible. And really follow her lead and mimic her philosophy and values and things like that in what I do as well, while also being myself. And I'm really lucky because she lets me be myself and she has full trust in me. So I'm really fortunate in that sense. But, I always think if I was somewhere else, that could maybe not be always the case. I might not be able to do all the same things I want to do in the weight room if I didn't have as much autonomy on, when are we lifting? When are we lifting? How many times a week do we lift? When do we practice? All these things, I think dictate a lot of our coaching style and way we do things as we go from position to position or time of year or pandemic.
Yeah, being yourself is important. I wouldn't work at a place where I couldn't be myself. So, I'm going to assume that, while, when you interviewed for the job, you didn't, know the head coach as well as you do now, but there was something in you that she saw that was like, yes, I need to get to know Jena, but I like who she is as a person and I want her to be herself. And that's very, very important. I think it's important for every strength and conditioning coach. Some people might just be okay saying whatever you need, coach. And you're just like, well, wait, what are my values? Like, I have values too. If, it is any coach's program, I answer to 6 head coaches and it is their program. But again, and I have been, at Princeton a really long time, but, just being able to say like, this is who I am right up front. Like, these are my values and it's your program. These are my values. Like, let's talk through these things. Are these important to you as well as important to me? There's going to be times where like, this is important to me, but as long as an athlete, number one, isn't getting injured, number two, completely disrespectful in a way to like the program, the university, yourself, staff, everybody, then, you can work with it. This is how we grow. Like you have to have a growth mindset to evolve. And, that's what we do. And we constantly evolve. And I wanted to ask you this question earlier, but didn't, hypothetically speaking, if, you probably are in your dream job right now. So when your head coach listens to this, you're like, I love it here, but, and I know that you do, but I just like, say you could come back to Philadelphia and, be with your family and, love the Eagles and the Phillies and the Flyers, with all the Philadelphians. Would you go back to going from one sport to multiple teams?
I think so. Yeah, for sure. I think, I'm really all about growth. Like I think when I feel like I can't grow anymore somewhere, and I find an opportunity where I can more and be challenged, of course I would want to take that. I'm very, very passionate about what I do, just very similar to you. I think we were definitely connected on this for a reason. And,
thanks, Samson.
Yeah, thanks, Samson. And, I want to continue to grow. Like I am more of the type that have goals and dreams that I want to attain. And I want to be somewhere that I can be for a long time, but I want to make sure that even whatever that spot or position I'm in, I'm still continuing to grow and being challenged in some way for sure.
What's growth and challenge to you in the field? I feel like, every a change could be a challenge for sure, but what's growth to you and maybe possibly seeking change in the future that you feel like you couldn't get, at your current location or another location?
And it's actually kind of cool because when we spoke, it really made me think about it. And it's kind of what you say, Angie, when like leading people and a staff, like I haven't really got to do that. And that is something I think I would really enjoy. And just like going back to saying like one of my favorite things ever was that I have 2 former student athletes that are interested in coaching. And, I feel like it's so lucky that they call me and ask me for help. And I'm like, wow, like, it's really cool. And it's like a really big honor to be able to lead people and a staff. And I think that would be the next big challenge for me because I haven't got to do that. And, it's been more strictly the coaching side of it, I feel like, and leading athletes more than necessarily having like a staff and developing other young people in our field.
I love that. Yeah, it's a challenge. Yeah. It's a great one. It's a great challenge. What do you, I mean, just, consider your coaching style or, how do you approach strength and conditioning with an athlete? Like maybe, and you don't need to give me like the nitty gritty of your program, but like, or, what you're writing, but just kind of like when big picture wise, like what's your coaching style and how does that impact your philosophy and how does your philosophy impact your coaching style?
I would say like in terms of coaching style, I would say kind of like a democratic coaching style where, um, you know, kind of going back to what you were saying, like my style and, way I communicate in the weight room is just me being myself. I think one thing I learned very early on in my career is that if you're trying to be someone you're not, whether, you think you're trying to be, the yelling, loud juice coach and you're not that, like people can see through that. I know when I worked with like men's sports at my previous universities, that was something I learned really quickly. Like if you want them to buy into you and get an authentic feel from you, just be yourself. Like, everyone can tell when someone is being not authentically them. So that's first and foremost is just, coming in, being authentic and vulnerable and being yourself. And then also, I think I have very specific expectation and standards for my athletes when they come in and they know them. But again, I want to give back to what I had as a student athlete, and I want them to enjoy it. I want them to have fun. I want to communicate with them on, if we're in season and I have a plan, and I'll ask our athletes, how they're feeling, what's going on, and they'll give me their honest feedback. And I do trust them because I think I've clearly communicated our goal and mission and what we're doing and why we do things. So they know and they understand, but also will give me feedback where I can make decisions and drive decisions. So they want to be in here and they're not like, oh shit, we have lift the next day after a game. They know that they're going to come in and I'm going to give them what they need for that moment. I'm not doing anything for other than what they need. It's not for my personal gain. It's not, I know, like I said, I don't know it all. That's what I've learned. I might think they'd be able to handle something and they come in and there's girls that really understand training and understanding our goals, and they tell me something, then I'm going to change it because I don't know it all. So I think I have a very kind of, democratic style where, they know what to expect and I can outline a lot of things for them, but their opinions and their insight matter to me and do, are taken into consideration day to day. So yeah, it didn't hit something specific on that question.
No, that was good. I thought that was great. You talked about buy-in. So, and you talked about communication, and this will probably be your answer, but in first year athletes coming in, they're great basketball players. We know that, especially, in the ACC, but not really experienced with strength and conditioning. They just want to play basketball, which is great. How do you get, you talked about, your athletes kind of know how you do things, so they're not going to be afraid to come in and talk to you. But, first year athletes that don't know you, how do you create buy-in there?
I think a lot of it is just, what you have with your upperclassmen. Like, I think like my upperclassmen sometimes speak for myself a lot. Like they come in and they're excited and they have energy and, they all talk. Like if they're excited when they get in here and you see their energy light up, I think that's contagious for the underclassmen. And when I have upperclassmen in the weight room, fixing things, telling them things, like that's huge. That just shows to the underclassmen that this is an important place. We don't mess around, and this is something we take seriously because we train hard. I remember first week here this year coming back. I had an upperclassman. I think someone was we were about to do something on our turf behind the line, like a sprint. And we were about to go and she stopped it and she was in like third in line and made the freshman get back behind the line before we even started it. And that to me was like, wow, like, that handles it right there. It's a lot of times underclassmen coming in, they look up to the upperclassmen because they know what they've done. And if they can set the standard without me setting the standard right away, that's huge. And that's something I'm really proud of is when our upperclassmen can, do that almost for me right away.
That's great. What like do you still train? I mean, do you still? I mean, I'm sure that you're not, training as a college lacrosse player anymore, but
I like to think
you,
I still try to.
yeah. I mean, I hear you. But like getting your training in, do you like tap into trying new things and when you're training, to maybe like experiment yourself to try something with an athlete?
Yeah, I love to train. Yes, for sure. I'm still a very big meathead at heart.
What kind of program are you doing?
I for a while I got really into Olympic lifting, and I was trying to compete right before I got the job at Winthrop. Actually, I had a professor at Lynn Ryan who's like a master Olympic strength Olympic weightlifting coach, and he taught me a lot of it and programmed some things for me. And then to be honest, Travis Mash is a North Carolina guy who programs a lot of Olympic weightlifters, and I follow a lot of his programs, and I had him come to one of my clinics and speak too. So I got really, I'm a big barbell person, like a lot of Olympic lifts, things like that. But still a meathead at heart too, I would say for sure. But yeah, I definitely, it's something in my routine every day I have to do. I always say it's like a lot of my athletes or other coaches be like, how do you, like, after, we have a long day of groups, like, how do you still want to train? And I always say it's just like part of your routine, and it's something that I enjoy. Genuinely, I enjoy
breathe without it. I can't breathe without it.
Yeah. And I always say, like, people, even like friends who aren't in our field or into it, like they don't get it, like why I'm up training on a Saturday, but I'm like, it's something I enjoy and I really like, and that's why I do it, so yeah, exactly what you said. It's just part of the day. So
yeah, that's great. So you're following like Travis Mash a little bit on your programming. I have guys on my staff write my programs. Like I don't want to write my own program. I ask somebody else to write my program, whether I'm following something or not, because I mean, it's likely that you're going to write something that you prefer doing rather than what you should do to get to the next level, right?
I was just going to say that actually. Absolutely. Like I like to go, right now I actually I've followed like old things I've had, but yeah, same thing. I need to get something right now to get started back up on, but I like following other programs for sure. And it's because you learn stuff. Mm-hmm. And like you said, if you program for yourself, you're going to do things you like. So I agree totally.
I'm sure you're not training when your athletes are in the weight room, but do they know you train and do they see you train if they're walking by? And do you think that has, what kind of effect, do they ask you about it? Do you think that it has, I mean, I feel like it would have a positive effect, but I mean, how do you feel? I mean, is it something that you continue to do because, you want to represent, like you want to walk the walk?
Absolutely. I think that's like huge. I think, yeah, my athletes love when they like see me training or doing things. I've had athletes come like just recently, and I think it's because like sometimes I do in the morning and they don't see me doing it often, but like they'll pop in and they'll see me train and they love watching it just because I think that, it kind of like motivates them a little when they see we're both smaller women, and that I'm sure you're pretty strong and as well. And I think it kind of impresses them to see that they can do things, and it almost gives them a kick in the butt sometimes when they're probably 3 times my size. So I always think it's cool, and it just like I think they enjoyed knowing that I do a lot of the same things they do, and it's not just all talk like you said. And then to be honest, I think like I hate to go back to the whole female thing, but I think it's really important for us too to be able to sometimes walk the walk. I think it helps a little bit, as much as it sucks that shouldn't be a complete factor. I think it does a lot. I know when I worked with men's team in the past, like they would lose their mind when they would see me training and doing some of the things, and they loved it. And that might've helped create buy-in sometimes. And, that's okay, but it definitely, I think played into a factor a lot, even with some of the men's team I trained.
I agree 100%. I think that as a strength and conditioning coach, especially a young one, I mean, obviously when you're in the game for a really long time and, we get older and our bodies start to break down. So we can't do as much as we've done in the past, or, families are involved, and then the time that you used to put into it, you can't put into it anymore. And that's a shift there in general. But I think that any strength and conditioning coach, like it should be a part of your routine, or like you should have compete in some way. Like just the competition aspect of it. I mean, you can write a program all day long, but if you don't know what that program that you wrote feels like, if you don't know what, 95% on a hang clean or a back squat feels like, then you shouldn't be programming it. I mean,
100%.
so bad saying that. I mean, I think every strength coach needs to, especially in your younger years, to like have a bar on your back and have gone through a training program. And if you didn't play a collegiate sport, then, go through some sort of Olympic weightlifting competition or powerlifting competition, just so you understand what an actual competition cycle is like. Because it's just much different than saying, I want to get better at this.
100%. I think too, like, how much better do you feel at coaching things when you can do them, like, or when you've done it? Like, I think that it makes you such a better coach when you've done, like, if you prescribe different exercises and stuff and haven't ever even done them, like, you're not going to be able to coach that as well as unless you've been in it and you said, like, done a program and went through it and see how they're feeling after each session as well. I think you're totally right.
I mean, that's a requirement of our internship program that we have them go through training programs, because like you get an intern and a lot of them come through like an exercise science program, and it's exercise that they know, and they don't understand there's a difference between exercising and training, and saying that when you come in and you just want to do, like, I want to do an aesthetic program rather than a get strong competitive programming, it's a completely different thing. And you need to know what that feels like. So I get young people into actually feeling what training cycles are like is it's a requirement. It's a requirement.
Absolutely. I love that.
As we're kind of rounding it up here, what did you learn from, the pandemic? I mean, we were in the midst of, I don't remember where Wake Forest was. I mean, was the season over when, the pandemic hit and the NCAA tournament, got trashed? That's how I'm going to say it. But those first couple months of quarantine, what was that, like for you? I mean, you have, 12 to 14 athletes and everybody gets sent home, I mean, maybe your season got cut short, maybe it didn't, but if it didn't, that was your off season. So aside from Zoom calls, because we know that that's what everybody had to transfer over to, did anything change with like how you engaged with your athletes? I mean, we couldn't engage in person, but just even philosophy wise, like what did you do to like kind of get them motivated and keep them engaged in the fact that like we will be back at some point, and and the worst thing that could happen is us actually being back sooner than you think we are, and your bodies aren't physically prepared. So how did you get, like your athletes to kind of stay engaged during that time?
So going back to where we were, we finished our ACC tournament, and we actually did really well. We ended up making it to like the quarterfinals of the ACC tournament. We beat Chapel Hill and Virginia Tech. In a matter of we played back-to-back games in less than 24 hours. We did awesome, and we were hoping to make the NIT tournament, and then of course everything got canceled. So it was tough, and we were hoping to be able to play more. But when we all were back, I'm really lucky, first that we had Team Builder, which is the cloud training software. So it made a lot of it really easy for me. But, besides that, I sent a lot of just videos of myself doing things. And that really helped them because they could see and visualize a lot of it. And I think kind of gave them a little more motivation on that, like, hey, it's really easy. Here's me in my driveway doing it all. So that was something I really tried to do. And it would be the exact workouts I gave them, I would do and send like, a time-lapse video. But what was really cool was that like we took advantage of a lot of the time, I think, and I talked to a lot of athletes individually. Every week I tried to like at least talk to everyone once, which again, really easy for me because I only have 14, 12 athletes. But, but I took that as I'm still an employee of the university, and, I don't want to take 3 months of vacation. I got to make sure I'm still making an extreme effort to reach out to everyone, to make sure I can help them when they need, modifications to things or they have questions. But I took the time to really talk to them, like about just like a lot of different things that we typically wouldn't get to talk about, like a lot of nutrition stuff. Like we did a lot of like Mondays, we sometimes would do like an hour, we called it performance talk, where they could all log in to Zoom, and it would just be like open discussion about like anything they wanted to talk about. Like they could ask questions about the things I sent home, like what troubles they're having, like what do they find hard? Like, are they having a difficult time finding a place to train? Are they lacking motivation? Are they lacking routine? Like, are they having trouble eating the right things? It was kind of cool. It was just like an open hour to ask any questions about what's going on. And then it even would lead to like just talking about overall general nutrition that sometimes we don't get to talk about a lot during the year, because as our schedule gets going, it's harder to like make time for a lot of those educational things. So we did that a lot too, which was really awesome. And then just talking to them on like individual basis more, just again, like building relationship with them, kind of finding out what they like to do to train and what they would enjoy. Like some of them would come back to me like, oh, I love this circuit right here. So then, I could give them other things that they enjoyed. And I think a lot of it was just keeping it like fun a little, and so they'd want to go do it. And it wasn't a pain. Like I would make sure whatever day I gave them, it would be like, you can do this whole workout today, go find 10 yards of grass. That's all you need. Or, okay, the next day, all you need is some sort of weight. If it was, a med ball, I sent a lot of basketball ones, like exercise you can do with just the basketball, which is because a lot of them, if they had hoops at home, they're going to shoot a lot. Okay, so here's a 10-minute thing you can do before you shoot. So things like that, just trying to keep them engaged and interested and keeping it fun.
Great. That sounds great. Was the staff, did you guys do a lot of just like staff meetings and then, everybody kind of just did their part, or were you, was the staff and they were just like, Jena, just go do what you feel like you need to do with them. And did the staff have team meetings and stuff, like kind of team building type of things, during that time, just to keep everybody engaged as a team, and with like looking at the coaching staff, if that's all you could do on a screen?
Yeah, I'll say, like, I'm very lucky. Coach Hoover let me run with a lot. Like, it was really cool, and she let me lead a lot of staff team. And, like, we even had, like, whole team and staff meetings, and she would let me lead it with different things. Like one time, we also sent out, like, cool little weekly things to parents sometimes I would do. Just, like, our parents and our athletes, like, email, and it would be, like, we talked about like the amount of decreased activity and steps you're taking now compared to pre-quarantine, and things you can do and suggestions. I even showed them, like I sent out to our parents, like my watch and my steps and all my steps, even compared to pre-quarantine to quarantine, and just the significance of it. So like sending them out info and things like that. And coach was awesome. She would let me get on our team talks and lead it with something like that, and really get the athletes engaged and staff. And so it was awesome. I was really lucky. I feel like I actually got to, lead certain things more than I typically would have, because it kind of really pertained to us. I think COVID could have been like the worst and best thing for strength coaches, and a lot of it, the best things, because it realized how valuable we are. And like in times like this, everyone leaned, I'm sure, on their performance coaches a lot for numerous things. So I think that was pretty cool, and could end up being a really big positive out of this, is that it kind of shows our value we could bring.
I love that. And I think that we should end on that part, because, that's exactly right. So everybody hears that last piece that you just said was amazing. So where can everyone find you? I mean, I know that you said that you had a clinic or something at Wake Forest. Is that something that you put on? Was it basketball only? Are you on social media? Where can people find you if they want to reach out?
Yeah, so the clinic, I'm actually the North Carolina State Director for the NSCA. So I put on our clinic last year here at Wake, which was awesome. And unfortunately this year I had to cancel it. It was going to be in October. And I just, instead of going virtual, I thought I'd just hold off and postpone it maybe to spring. So hopefully coming soon, that more details. But I am on Twitter and Instagram, and it's just at Jena Ready, JenaReady. And then, of course, my email and everything like that on Wake Forest directory under women's basketball.
All right, great. Well, Coach, this was an awesome conversation. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to staying connected.
Yeah, you too, Angie. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking to you. And again, I feel really lucky that I got to do this with you specifically.
I do. I feel the same way. And, good luck with your season. I hope everyone stays healthy. Like, my teams aren't playing basketball, but I'm looking forward to watching yours. So good luck and stay well.
Thank you. We'll keep in touch for sure.
Sounds good. Later.
See ya.